What's up? Welcome to The Assist. I am your host, Dylan. The Assist is brought to you by the No Network, where we desire to bring all fans close to every single sport happening in Louisiana. If you're a Tulane Wave fan, if you're an LSU Tiger fan, if you're a New Orleans Saints fan, if you're a Baton Rouge Zydeco fan, if you're a New Orleans Pelicans fan, if you're a Lafayette Raging Cajun fan, whatever it looks like, we cover it here at the No. So if you're looking for your one-stop shop for all things Louisiana sports, congratulations. You're now rocking with the best. I am so excited to bring you this episode today. This is a hockey-only edition of The Assist. Today, we're going to sit down with Head Coach Everett Thompson to talk about the turnaround that the Baton Rouge Zydeco took towards the end of the season, as well as I'm going to rehash and pull back up my conversation with CEO and Governor of the Baton Rouge Zydeco, Barry Soskin. He's going to tell us a little bit about his story, about where the Zydeco came from and where they're going. If you have never paid attention to anything hockey, this conversation, this episode is for you. It's going to be a great episode. I can't wait. And also, I want you to stay tuned in. There's going to be certain little moments within this episode where I'm going to put a little hockey 101 in there for you to get to learn the sport, get to know the nuances of the game, get to know the lingo of the game, because I believe that hockey could be a great sport for the city of Baton Rouge and the state of Louisiana. We have some of the most athletic human beings in our state, and a lot of times they are living the mindset that they only can play football or basketball. I regret to inform you that is incorrect. I don't regret to inform you. I inform you that is incorrect. You can make it in any sphere that you put your head to and anything that you put your intentionality into. And hockey is another opportunity for us to be able to express ourselves in the sports realm. So, without further ado, let's get to our first interview. Let's do it. First up, I get to sit down with Mr. Barry Soskin. He is the owner and CEO and governor of the Baton Rouge Zydeco. He is an amazing man, and this conversation is one that I will be marked by for the rest of my life. So sit back, relax, and enjoy my conversation with none other than the legend himself, Barry Soskin.
Barry Soskin. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing well, Dylan. I don't think I deserve any of those accolades like that.
Well, I appreciate your humility, and I appreciate how humble you are. Now, I'm a student of people, and I love to study people, and I've gotten to do a little diving into your life and everything that you've done. And I just want you to know, your humility is welcomed, but there's not too many guys that can stop a private jet just until they show up. So, I mean, there's only a few Barry Soskins in the world. So I don't know if we all have
the story. You twist it. It's great when they twist the stories to make me seem even better. But I like that one. I like that part. I like that version better.
Hey, I mean, if you want to tell it, you could tell it. But from what I know of the story, it goes as such. Individual was like, when are we going to take off? When are we going to take off? When are we going to take off? And the pilot leads and says, when Mr. Barry gets here. I hear that's how the story goes. Is that correct?
That part of the story is correct, yes.
Okay, see?
That part of the story is exactly correct.
Now let me try
the parts leading up to that, but that's certainly the punchline was right.
Right. Now let me try and pull that same thing with American Airlines. They're going to wait for me from the sky.
You and me both. Yeah.
There's levels to this. Well, thank you so much for sitting down with us here at the No. Once again, we're so grateful for your time. You have an illustrious career in ownership and in playing. And we're going to talk about the Zydeco because I know that's what the majority of people are tuning in for. But I want to highlight everything you've done for hockey in totality. Walk us through where the genesis, for lack of better verbiage, is of your ownership or your desire for ownership at the hockey ranks.
Hockey's a very small world. There were a bunch of us old timers that were playing hockey, and we thought that we were all businessmen. We all felt that we should get involved in some way, shape, or form. and we looked at some of the things to get involved with. And in 1989, I think it was the South Bend, Indiana single A baseball team sold for $4.5 million. So the 4, 5, 6 of us at the next time we're sitting at the bar after a game, just trying to pour a couple of drinks in us to kind of settle us down after playing, because we all had to get up early the next morning. So we decided that, okay, if a single A baseball team is that much money, we're out. And I came across an ad for hockey that had a salary cap. And this was where the Kingfish were back in the 90s. This, to me, was 1989. So before any of the teams came in along the I-10 corridor. And they wound up we wound up getting together with the East Coast Hockey League and putting a team in. That was a little bit of probably a chapter in a book all by itself, because we were turned down twice. They didn't like the markets. Well, I think originally the league didn't like the partner that they set me up with, and then they didn't like the market that I was going to. And when I changed the market to Toledo, things changed, and things changed for me there. And not only did I have tremendous success on and off the ice, doing everything a minor league is supposed to do, play in front of a lot of fans, get involved in the community, move players, coaches, broadcasters up to the next level. Nobody won more games while I had a team in the coast, and I'm proud of that. Nobody moved more people up to the next level than we did. And I say I'll take all the credit, but it wasn't me at all. It was the people who I hired, who I surrounded myself with. They deserve all the credit. And they've gotten it there. I started Toledo back in 90, and these things have, some of these guys are still involved in hockey today, so I'm very proud of that.
Yeah, the Toledo Storm team was a expansion team, and you basically iterated its launching in the ECHL, correct?
I was team number 8 in a league that one time had over 30. I would say that I got in on the ground floor there. There's people that say I bought myself a job, and I think there's a lot of truth to that. And I learned to grow with the business. A lot of things have changed since 90 in marketing and certainly in social media and how we get our word out and how we get our name across. The customer service is still number one. To me, this is still about entertainment. We all love hockey. That's what it's about. But this is entertainment. You have to be thoroughly enjoyed. Otherwise, you're not coming to give me your money or watch the boys live.
Right. And that's just hearing that model. It's kind of you would think it would be commonplace for any level beneath the NHL. It should be commonplace for the NHL, but we're seeing certain things that we won't talk about right now. But it should be commonplace. But for you to have that ideology and be so successful at it, you must be doing something different, because we can't say that every owner sets out with that as the goal. We want to put butts in the seats, and we want a product that everybody loves to be a part of. Right? That's the goal. But you're doing it so well. And you've done it so well, from the Toledo Storm to the Waterloo Blackhawks, to where you were president of the Waterloo Blackhawks, to Traverse City Enforcers, Traverse City. I want to talk about that a little more too, because I want to hear about that one. But you've everywhere you've gone, you have a pattern of breaking molds and doing things that most people don't see could be done in those markets. What drives you to continue to go back and try and break another mold? Is it just the love of hockey, or is there something on the inside of Barry that's just like, I want to do everything they said couldn't be done. What is the thing?
I don't know if there is a thing. What I try to do is I try to bring my message. My message hasn't changed in any of the markets, bigger market, smaller market. Sometimes it's taken differently. I do believe it's has a lot to do with your staff. I think I have great people who work for me, and they do a tremendous job of not only my ideas, but but coming up with their own ideas. This, like I said earlier, this is about surrounding yourself with the right people. It is harder and harder to find those people. I do get that, but that's like all over America. I think that finding help is harder and harder nowadays. The entitled generation certainly is making it more difficult, I feel, to get my message across. But I've been lucky. I've gotten some really good people that are doing a great job. And I will tell you, I have a lot of fun in opening up these new markets as we're trying new games. I'll bring this out here. I have a team that I was in for 10 years, and then they decided to go in a different direction, Danville, Illinois, and they went with the board decided after my lease was over, after being there for 11 years, playing for 10, they went in another direction. That direction didn't work out too well for them. So I announced that I'm coming back. We'll be there this next season. That will be my seventh team, I believe, that my group. It's not mine. They're not all mine. They're part of our group that we're running. I do have the last say in all of them, but there still are a few of us, not just me, and that's pretty much what we've been doing.
But you also, correct me if I'm wrong, is you're I just heard breaking news, by the way. People, you get breaking news here at the Know. We just heard that there's another team coming into the fray that's going to be in Danville. But you also are launching the Blue Ridge Bobcats, correct? Is that coming down the pipeline?
That's already happened. That's in
Okay.
Virginia. That's not even the one you caught up on. I was starting to tell you, with the Danville games, I've got a market that's, I don't want to say it's right on top of them, but they're a brand new market. Yeah. They had hockey again long time ago, and I'm trying to bring professional hockey back there too. And it's Topeka. I'm going to take 4 of my games that will be in Danville. 4 of Danville's home games will be played in Topeka this upcoming season. The dates are the end of January, and I think the first Saturday in February for our 4 games. Yeah, I'm excited about that. So yeah, I think that the message is clear. And what we try to do, listen, this is, not only am I excited about another market and about another team, but what I'm really excited about is the places that I'm going, the messages that I'm sharing is we're trying to take this sport and bring it to people that haven't necessarily been able to get in front of this sport. It's an expensive sport. We've had a learn to skate program that we've had now for a couple of years in Winston. Baton Rouge is adopting it as well. I hope that all the markets I have adopt it. It run by the team with help from the local police department, as well as obviously the city and the building itself. And we're teaching, underprivileged kids how to skate, and we're paying for it. It's all on our dime. We're keeping them off the streets, which I think is important. And we're taking a certain a number of kids a year. We pick 50. If it's, 60, we're okay with that. Every year for 5 years, we understand that they grow and they'll need more equipment. And our group is set forth on making sure that those kids have an opportunity to play and learn our sport, learn the sport that I'm passionate about. And, I'm involved in ownership in baseball too. I'm a sports nut. I'd rather watch women's badminton or, anything than a TV show. I have a business off the track. I have a business, and there's a TV show called Chicago Fire, and they came in and filmed part of it in my store. And there was like 15 employees walking around the store, how they're going to film this and everything. And so I pulled one of them off to the side, and she was asking me about it, and I was talking to this nice, I don't know, 20-something girl. She says, "Do you watch the show?" And I said, "What time does it come on ESPN?" And she goes, "No, it's not on ESPN."
I love it. I
wouldn't have any idea on any TV shows because I'm watching sports or I'm streaming sports or I'm talking about it. So there's nothing else about it than that. Okay.
Oh my
Sorry,
goodness.
I got off.
No, this is about, like I said, this is not an interview for me, sir. This is a conversation to understand the wirings of, you're a serial entrepreneur, basically.
You mean so there is wiring up there somewhere?
It has to be. There's something up there. I mean, my goodness, everywhere you go, I heard this old saying from an old mentor of mine. Most very successful people have a small madman on the inside of them that is lightly crazy. They just know how to wire them correctly. And I mean, just listening to you talk and how you talk about yourself, I'm like, man, give me whatever madman is on the inside of this guy, because it is just, I mean, everywhere you go, you succeed and you're progressing.
No. I don't think that at all. In fact, I honestly have to tell you, I think one learns more in defeats or losses than, the accolades are great. The successes are wonderful. I don't wear, I mean, you can almost see through the TV thing here, maybe. I don't wear any of the rings that I have. And I probably have, 10 or 12 championship rings along the years. I figured it out. If you buy enough teams, you got to win a championship. That's the key right there. So, I try to, what I'm trying to do is bring, a quality of life that people can enjoy, both on the ice as a participant, as well as being a fan. I love going, I'm a fan of the Chicago Blackhawks. I have been, virtually my whole life as I've been a Chicago resident. So I try to see as many games as I can, both live and on TV. I enjoy that. And I want to bring that sport and I love listening to the podcasts of former players. I'm a fan, and that's probably the biggest asset that all these markets have is I'm a fan of the game that I'm trying to bring to them. And I kind of know what they want because I want it too. You know what I mean? We need to see a fight. You know what I mean? We want to see hard hits. We want to see creativity and speed, and we want to see a win. You know what I mean? We don't want to walk away from a home game with a losing record. So those are the things that I try to bring, and we're all on the same page when we talk like that.
And you are, I mean, that is a perfect model, because everything you're saying embodies the culture of Louisiana in itself. It's hardworking, gritty, grimy, and going to fight for every victory. That's just who we are. So you kind of gave me a great transition point with that philosophy on hockey. When you and your team thought about bringing hockey back to Baton Rouge, what was the point in your mind? What drew you guys to Baton Rouge? What was the factor that made you say this is the next frontier for the South as far as hockey goes?
Well, first of all, I mentioned earlier about the I-10 corridor and all the teams being added in the late 90s to the East Coast Hockey League. Well, I was on the expansion committee during that time, so I learned an awful lot about all these markets. And, I don't know if it's a bad marketer or a bad building or a bad choice. When there's teams in the league right now that I'm trying to help in our league that are not spending money wisely. And it's putting them in a position where I don't see them being around for very long. And it continues to happen. Um, Now, if you're undercapitalized, you need money to make money. If you're undercapitalized, it doesn't work. But if you're capitalized properly and you're overspending, pretty soon you see this as not the investment or not the fun that you wanted it to have. And you look elsewhere. Again, I learn more from my losses than my successes. So if somebody else has a loss and I'm right there having to deal with it, not only do I have all the teams that I'm involved with, but my phone is on, and I'll certainly answer from any of my partners who feel that they're in trouble or feel that they want to take a direction that we're taking, and we're doing some wild things in Winston. We don't have any seats. I don't need to hire anybody to sell group tickets. Not bad, huh? That's and then listen, it's not me. That is not me. That's the staff. That's the product. Look at the coach and look at every one of those players. Um, I give all the accolades that I can possibly give to the administrative side, and I love that. I mean, I want them to get the credit that they deserve. Players seem to get a lot of credit. The fans are always cheering them on. Nobody's cheering on the ticket salesman. Nobody's, what I mean? The broadcaster's up there doing a great job. I don't hear anybody cheering them on. So I try to give those guys the accolades that I feel they need. But if you don't have a good product, boy, it makes that job damn near impossible. And that's why I think that Winston's doing such a great job, because they've got it like all. You know what I mean? The package is there, except for the ring the last couple of years. But the package is there. And, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but out of 28 home games, I believe they sold out 20 of them. And then the playoff games, which are extremely hard to sell out, I believe we sold out of every single playoff game. So, that's what markets, that's what other teams are talking to me about, and trying to see how they can duplicate some of that success. So I want to help the other teams in the league that that aren't doing so well, so that we can all do better. I think that if I'm looking at this strictly as an asset, my asset goes up when teams are strong. Other teams are strong, both on and off the ice.
Right. And that's you said something about product, and I want to say and by the way, when he talks about what's going on in Winston, for everybody that doesn't know, he's talking about the Carolina Thunderbirds. For anybody that's listening and they're like, where's Winston? Don't worry. It's a really good team in Carolina that he also spearheaded. But when you talk about the product, one of the things I know, and this question is a personal question, and I'm going to be honest and say this was not in my notes. I just heard you speak, and I said, I'm going to ask him this question. I don't know who the design team is that designed our uniforms, our jerseys, and everything, but they deserve a raise. Bravo, and bravo to the social media team, because I remember the original logo you guys came out with. You had the Mississippi River Bridge on it, but then I guess your social media team was aware of what was going on, and so you took the bridge off and you made it more clean and more transient. Not transient, that's the wrong word, but easier to translate into different things. And so with all that to be said, I'm going to ask you a question. Is there ever going to be a day where I can purchase a jersey of the Zydeco and it be outside of auction, or is that the model that you've seen succeed and you kind of want to stick to that?
No, yes, maybe. Yes, there will be. As we're getting our act together and our buying together properly, we're sorting through those things. I want you to be able to get a jersey. I do like the fact that Yeah, I don't like everything to only be an auction. I like there to be a raffle. I like there to be a lot of, listen, a couple $100 sometimes doesn't grow on trees. I get that. And listen, I'm sitting there trying to be sensitive about that. I'm sensitive to the people who are paying the bills as well. And so I want to make sure that I can, you know, um, give them a little something. And if there's a raffle or some way where I can have them be involved in getting a jersey a little bit cheaper, I'm all for that. But yeah, there will be jerseys available. I actually think that although our merchandise did a great job, there are, I mentioned before where I think that Winston's got a lot of the package together. Don't think for a second that we're resting. I mean, there's a lot of things that are on the horizon, and I'm not sitting still in Carolina. And, the Baton Rouge team, they've only had one season. And really, the gentleman who's helped me run that all year, Don, he virtually started the week that the season started was his first week. I think you'd have to ask him, but I think he actually flew in for the home game and then went back home and came back the next week. So, there wasn't any time to really for him to really focus on some of the things that we wanted to do that we talk about, and there needs to be more time to plan some of that stuff out. So every team, no matter how long I've been there, we want to do better every year, and I think that might be the problem of teams in the past. There was a movie made a while ago with Kevin Costner called Field of Dreams. It was a baseball movie, and it was basically build it and they'll come. Right. That was the voice from his father coming from the cornfields. Yeah. Well, it's not true. You know what I mean? You bring a hockey team and you just say, hey, man, it's here. You're going to come for a year. And then you're not going to come anymore unless you do something to market your club. So as I was preluding before, is this a market? Is this a building? Is this the owner said, hey, I want to put an NHL team here, and it shouldn't have had the NHL team? Baton Rouge had the money, had the support, had the people. They didn't have the marketing. I think they forgot what they were doing, and every year, look it up yourself. Every year, attendance went down. That's not a recipe for success. Right. And there are other things that kept the team out for a while. I'm experiencing some of those issues now, and it has nothing to do with the fans or the community. It's just maybe the cards that I was dealt. There's no additional ice sheet. So when you want to practice, I've got to go to where there's ice. If there's ice at 275 River, I'm there. They have a very good staff themselves. Believe it or not, their staff is not paid to have the building empty. So their staff is paid to put stuff in the building. Right. Makes sense to me. Right. I pay taxes. That's certainly what I would want. Okay. Right. Well, but that maybe put me out in somewhere else for practice. So I would have to say that this year I drove to Lafayette for practice more than I had practice in my own building. Wow. So that's some of the issues that a team has to deal with when they're playing in Baton Rouge. And I'm working on trying to rectify those problems. But if you don't have the foresight to want to work on those problems and have a solution, and the solution can't be, give me money. If the solution is, here's my hand, put money in it, it doesn't work. Those days, either never existed or are long, long gone. So, you know, what I'm trying to do is come up with a way so that it's financially feasible to get a youth program here. You know, again, this is why I'm trying to help build a learn to skate program, get kids another way to get kids off the street. It's proven sports does it. You give kids something to do. You don't give them anything to do. You don't give me anything to do. I'm 66. I'm getting in trouble. Okay. And I'm an old man who can't do much. So if you're a lot younger than me and you got a lot of built up energy, you're getting in trouble. Sports help me. It's helped my kids. It's helped, you know, my people around me. I want to see it do the same to, you know, to every market that I'm in, and not just Baton Rouge. I want to see it happen in Port Huron and, you know, in Biloxi. Let's continue. Winston-Salem. I'm in Withville, Virginia, with the Blue Ridge Bobcats that you talked about. I want it to happen everywhere.
Yeah, and that's I know about all the other markets you've spoken of, but if we can, and hopefully the correct ears hear what you just said. Your goal is not just to bring hockey to Baton Rouge. Your goal is to encourage the community to grow. And anything that is encouraging community to grow and be safer, it should be supported by the mass. Because I can tell you, as a young fan, I remember, and this interview isn't about me, it's clearly about you, but I just want to kind of speak into the impact you're having. I remember being in the second or third grade, and I'll never forget this. This was a long time ago for me. And I remember we gotten tickets to go to a Baton Rouge Kingfish game, and it was a day game, so we went during school. And I remember going into that arena, and I'd never seen hockey before outside of the Mighty Ducks. And I can remember that day still to this day. And now that I'm older, I'll be honest with you and say I had not had the opportunity to follow hockey or to follow sports like I could have if the Kingfish would have stuck around, because I fell in love with hockey that day. But I just didn't have an avenue to feed into that love. It was kind of like, oh, that was a shot in the pan and now it's gone. And so I mean, I know my voice means nothing, but I value and I honor what you're doing, especially in the city.
Listen, I get where you're coming from. And back then, honestly, when you say, okay, I lost my team and I can't go too close to another one, it didn't translate good on TV back then. And you couldn't follow the puck. It was very hard for you to watch the game, especially to a fan that was trying to learn it. Now, actually, I won't even say now, since plasma TVs came out, so it's been a little bit, you know, it's been a lot better game to watch. And certainly the broadcasts that I've seen, whether they've been on, you know, my local sports casts or the, you know, the network stuff on ESPN that I've watched, the game is, you know, to me, it's like watching a football game. You know, they've got sideline reporters and multiple cameras and a lot of different, you know, yesterday I'm watching the NHL and Charles Barkley's on there talking hockey. So, you know, and I mean, I think he's a comic. I love that.
Right.
So, he was, in fact, talking about a joke with Messier on the broadcast about how during a basketball game he went up to shake his hand in New York and got fined $5,000. I thought that was a cool story. But yeah, again, I love to hear those type of stories. So, you know, I eat that stuff up, and with, you know, everything that I go and see with my Chicago Blackhawks, I try to do that with our teams, all of them. You know, I'm not going to be on network TV, and my budgets aren't quite, you know, $150 million, but I still want to see us with a lot of content on our website. You know, half of the teams have podcasts. One of the teams had an app, didn't work out, but we're always willing to try something and work on different things. I love it when I just punch on different things on my website. You click on different things, and I mean, I get off on watching the different content that we have. Like I said, I'm a fan. I eat that stuff up myself.
And man, you're doing a great job, and that's you lead like a fan, and that's it refreshing. So to just transition the conversation a little bit to talk a little bit about what you are doing with the Zydeco, they ended the year extremely strong, 3-game winning streak, and but how they got there is the most astonishing part. The beginning of the team, they started out with the coach that didn't make it to camp before he was let go, and then there was a co-coach situation, and then that ended with MJ Graham being the interim head coach, and we finally landed on Everett Thompson, who's a phenomenal hire. Oh my goodness, I was man, I'm a fan, but to talk about all of that from a front office, or you're kind of even above front office standpoint, what is going into making all of those decisions while at the same time trying to keep together such a brand new brand? What is the thought process behind that?
So you're telling me that I had to have a thought process in the first place? No. First of all, you have to understand, I, as the managing member, need to understand what we are. Again, I keep referring to my Blackhawks. We're not the Chicago Blackhawks. They're not on my schedule. Zydeco's got to play, Mississippi Seawolves. They've got to play the New Monroe team in Louisiana. They've got to play, Columbus and Athens and Virginia. You know what I mean? Winston-Salem. They don't have to play those NHL teams. So what you're trying to do is gear your team up for what success that they can have on running, on running what they're trying to do. I don't bite off more than you can chew, and do an excellent job with what you do. Remember the Washington Redskins? They ran Riggins right, they ran Riggins left, and everybody knew what they were doing, but they did it better than everybody, and nobody could stop them. So don't worry about what others are doing. Try to do what you can do. When you have a team and you're there to feed the other leagues, you're going to lose players. It happens. That's what you're about. Do the fans want to see your best player leave? No, they don't. But they have to understand what you're there for and what you're trying to accomplish for the player and for your market to be able to grow. So as you're trying to, move players up, or you're trying to move anybody up, there's going to be challenges for you. Well, that comes with coaches too. You have coaches that feel that they have a better opportunity elsewhere, and they'll make that decision to move. I sign an agreement with everybody, but I'm not going to hold anybody up. They don't want to work for me. They don't have to work for me. It's partially free country. So I'm told, until I got to pay the taxes and all those other things. I question the freedom that I'm allowed, and I'm married for a long time, so that's less freedom too. But you're going to run into challenges, and coaching is one of them. Sometimes you go through a coach that is there and doesn't do a good job. That hurts more. You have a coach that you hired and somebody else wants them. That makes me feel good. I did a good job of hiring that guy. If somebody perceivably wants to give him more money, make his quality of life better, I'm happy for him. And I was the one that was able to see that first, because I hired him first. Again, I did not I take the credit again. My staff, our staff, made the right decision when we came down to and we decided to pick somebody. But when somebody can offer more money, that's one thing that I won't do. I'm not gonna to cheat. I'm not going to what I call change the model that I think works. And I don't have to have a model. You're in Detroit, you're in Port Huron. One team is running an operation for literally a third more. A third more. No wonder they're in financial straits. Okay. They don't need to be there, and they're taking in more money than Port Huron is, yet they're nowhere near the same, not even close to the same financial security or success that others around them are doing. So you need to have the right model, and I'm not going to break the model. I'd love to have Wayne Gretzky in his prime play for me, but he's not going to play for what we can afford to pay him. So I need to be able to buy a ticket and watch him, when he was playing against my Hawks. That's what I was able to do. You just need to realize where you are. Coaches, broadcasters. I lost a broadcaster because he got a job, and making twice as much money. How do you not allow that to happen? That's what I'm here for. That's what I want to happen. If I'm where it starts, it's not where it ends. Unless you want it to end here. If this is where it starts for the people, I want you to go and enjoy as much as you can.
And hearing that, that sounds like open-handed ownership, which is what you are operating with, which is my job is to put you in position to be the best you and go forth. And that's very kind of you. But to flip that on its head, no,
I disagree. I don't think it's kind of me. I look, if you're if I don't put you in a position to succeed, I don't succeed. If I have my broadcaster be the coach and I have the coach be a broadcaster, how successful am I? I want the coach to be a coach, and it's my job to have him excel as a coach so that he can move up and be a coach at the next level. I want my broadcaster to do whatever it takes for him. And some broadcasters in my world, some broadcasters sell. It seems like nowadays they're more into the graphics and social media and stuff like that. Great. You know what I mean? You broadcast 3 hours, 6 hours a week. What are you doing the rest of the time? So, there's a lot of ways that you're going to help a team. And I don't have an NHL budget where I've got 15 people doing 15 jobs. We have 5 people doing the 15 jobs. You know what I mean? And that's the model that makes this work. That's how Don Kernan started this, 15 years ago. And when you don't run it like that, you change what everybody's trying to do, and it doesn't work.
Not to play devil's advocate, but to ask this question. With that being your thought process, and I'll have one more question after this, by the way. Thank you for your patience with me. With that being your thought process, how do you go about making sure the product does not suffer with said process of individuals being able to develop and elevate and transition out with such freedom, if that makes sense? Obviously, you can't stop them because, as you said, it's a free country, or so we say. But what does that look like for you? Is that a farm system of individuals you have behind them that can easily step into their space? Or is it kind of like, how do you process through that, not letting the brand suffer by losing such a significant piece to it, for lack of better verbiage?
I think it goes, it's not one easy answer.
Yeah.
We've been talking for a while. It'd probably take as long to answer that one question. But what you're trying to do, I believe, you're trying to get into a player's head, and not myself, but the coach, the coaching staff, trying to get into a player's head and find out what they're looking for. Sometimes it's best for a player to develop and get that opportunity in training camp next season. Sometimes it's better for them to go and see what it takes now. A lot of the times, the kids are up. The players are up for a couple of weeks, and then they get sent back down. So, a lot of it is, the relationships that you have. I always believe next man up. Next man up. If I'm playing on that third line and I'm practicing and I'm watching you're on the second line. I gotta feel that I'm not far off from you, and if I feel I'm far off from you, then I'm probably looking to be the next standby or healthy scratch or whatever. It's a different it's a different mentality. You want to you always want to have a good team, but you got to understand what you're there for. And if you want to succeed, you need to care about your players. And your players want the best opportunity that they can get. And some of them feel it's to go up right this second. Some of them, we had a player in Winston who was called up, and I don't want to go into names or anything, it's immaterial. When they were playing for the home team in Carolina, they're a very good team. Building sold out. He's getting 25, 30 minutes of ice time, on the power play or on the first line penalty kill. He gets called up. Is he making more money? Yes. Is his quality of life the same? No. No. He can't go anywhere. He can't go anywhere and get noticed. You know what I'm saying? Unless he does something and get arrested. So it's a different quality of life for some guys. And I know that we had a player in Winston that came back. He wasn't cut. He came back because he wasn't playing. He called our coach to say, "Hey man, is there anything you can do?" You can't call a coach and say, "Hey man, this guy deserves to be on the power play." Who the hell are you? It's my team, right?
Right.
So there's there's always going to be challenges when you're in the minor leagues. I remember in Danville, just before COVID in January, I was in first place. I didn't make the playoffs. We had call-ups, we had injuries, and there weren't enough guys to come up through the ranks. And then by the time we were allowed to add college kids, and they added a few college kids, they didn't have enough to to come back and gain a playoff spot. That's pretty disheartening when you're in first place in the middle of the season and no playoff run for you. So
My goodness, man.
that's part of the minor league gig,
Right. And there's been movies written about the minor leagues just seeing you navigate that terrain and the multitude of different avenues you've been in, the multiple different minor leagues you've been in, it's insane. And so, well, I want to thank you so much for your time. But before I let you go, Mr. Berry, we have a fun game I like to play. It's called The Greatest of All Time.
The greatest what?
The greatest of all time. And I'm just going to ask 4 questions. And then I'm gonna ask one, and then I want your answer. But if I pause, I want to know why it is that. And then we're gonna keep going. Are you ready?
Go for it. We'll see.
Greatest hockey city of all time.
Chicago.
I knew.
Come on. But I mean that's unfair. My hometown. Plus, I grew up in the Chicago Stadium. No building was ever that loud, ever. And I was in the Toledo Sports Arena. The Chicago Stadium, their last year was Remember the Roar. And it's a shame now because 30 years later, that Roar has never been duplicated. They've had 3 championships in a new building, and that Roar has never been duplicated. So, and the world got a chance to see it when during an All-Star game, when they had the All-Star game here, and they were, cheering like crazy and going nuts. So I have to say Chicago. Okay.
Okay.
Next.
I won't fester you there. Greatest player of all time. We know the people are going to say Wayne Gretzky, but you being a student, I want to know what's your answer.
Wow. I've got my favorites. I've got guys that I think were heart and souls of the team. I was asked once, who my favorite Blackhawk was, and my answer was, "You mean besides Keith Magnuson?" And Keith Magnuson wasn't a great player as much as he was the heart and soul of a team, and he wouldn't have made anybody's lineup half the time, but he just had the heart that you wanted in that locker room, and he stood up for his teammates, and he would be on my team somewhere. As far as the best player, I've seen a lot of great ones. Um, Somebody who I felt had all the tools, and this is what I'm going to go after, wasn't just an offensive stud like Brett Hull, wasn't just somebody who went and banged people, um, you know, had more speed than Wayne Gretzky. I don't think anybody saw the ice as good as Gretzky did. That's why he is remarkable. I don't remember, Gordie Howe. I don't remember some of those guys. I actually saw Gordie Howe play in the WHA with his kids, but
Wow.
I don't remember him in his prime. For me, I would say a guy like, Marian Hossa, a Chris Chelios. Those guys they took that position and they played that position with passion, probably better than anybody else or as good as anybody else during their time. I mean, Paul Coffey was phenomenal as an offensive defenseman, but nobody played that position like Chelly. And he played more games as a Red Wing than a Blackhawk. So
Right.
I'm not just going after my Hawks here.
I was thinking that in my head.
Also played for, I think, every team. I think he played for Ottawa probably the longest. But again, these guys, in my world, I like the plus minus stat. That's how important you are. If you were on the ice, did your team score? That's or did you get scored on? That's it. You were on the ice when it happened. Somehow it was your fault. And to me, I call that the most important stat. Some disagree. And when you have guys that are plus 50, plus 60, plus 70, those are the guys I want to talk about. I've known guys that have 100 points and they're a plus 20. Like, what? I mean, that to me, you're wasting that position. I can do that. Get me a chair and I can do that. I'll be at the blue line waiting for you to pass me the puck. But I'm going to have to say if I got and for a goaltender, tell me somebody better than the Eagle when he was hot. He was better than Eddie, and he left the Hawks. So
yeah,
I should be pissed at him. But
yeah,
the Eagle was something else.
different type
I would
of
say
animal.
that those three guys would probably, be the top in the positions for me.
That level of athleticism in the net was just insane. I mean, anyway.
Wait a minute. Think about that. Don't you want to get away from that puck? You want it to hit you? No.
It was insane. At that's a different conversation. We could harp. That was insane.
Right.
Okay, greatest hockey movie of all time.
Slapshot.
I knew it. That if you would have said any other one, I would have been like.
I think that might be the only. How's this? I might even go with Slapshot 2 before I go with any other movie. And that was pretty bad.
No Mighty Ducks?
You know what? I will have to go along with that. When the Mighty Ducks came along, when my kids were around. So I did watch them a lot. I will have to say that that's certainly the Mighty Ducks are better than Slapshot 2.
But the rawness of Slapshot 1, it encapsulated the real hockey player experience from what I've heard. And so it's kind of, you can, if you would have said any other one, I would have been like, what?
If you
Okay.
talk to some of those guys that played for the Kingfish back then, they'll tell you some of their stories weren't too far off from the Slapshots.
Really?
Yeah, talk to some of the guys. It's really, I don't want to say some of the ownership, craziness, but I mean, as far as fans, as far as, all the other craziness that went on. Yeah. It's pretty wild.
Wow. Okay. Last one. And this is one that is for you. Favorite, greatest hockey memory of all time. It can be with the kiddos. It can be a game you went to. It could be something you experienced with your wife, whatever. Your greatest hockey memory of all time.
Probably got to get sentimental. I've had, I've had the pleasure of seeing the Blackhawks win. I've had the pleasure of being part of teams where I've had a responsibility or ownership or whatever in them winning. I think I got to go to when, I don't know if it was one game. I think it was a bunch of them where I'm just walking around with my son at a hockey game where he's got, the Blackhawk jersey with his name on the back of it, and the number was 1/2. Okay. I made the little kid a jersey. So his number, he wasn't a full 1. I made him a jersey 1/2. At the national anthem, everybody's on their feet screaming and cheering. I put my kid on my shoulder so he can see every game. I take him to about half of the games. I have season tickets. I've had season tickets for years. So I take my wife to about half of the games and my little son to the other half of the games. He's on my shoulder. It's the playoffs. After the playoffs, the Toledo, the East Coast Hockey League has their meetings. I think it was in Montreal at the where the NHL had their draft, and they're having a lot of parties. And there's a video of the recap of the Stanley Cup, and it's a 15-minute NHL sports recap, and it starts by them singing the national anthem and how crazy it is at the stadium, as we talked about earlier. Well, the camera is behind my head, 4 or 5 rows up. So when you got the camera pointing at the singer, you're looking at a jersey that says Soskin 1/2.
Wow.
That was, so here I am walking around trying to grab we were affiliated with the Red Wings. So I'm walking around trying to get all the Red Wings guys every 15 minutes to look and show them where my kid is on my shoulder and what seats I have at the, so that's probably, showing everybody that, being at those games with my kid. Listen, I don't know how old your children are, if you have children, but it's when you're at a sporting event with them, it's different. Those are memories that you will not forget ever. My son's 35, 36. This happened when he was probably 4 or 5. And you're asking me some of my favorite memories. That's popping into my head first. Family. Okay. And honestly, when you talk about keeping kids off the street, isn't that what I'm trying to do? Yeah. I'm trying to make sure that we have a successful young America, not the direction that we've been heading recently.
Yeah. Yeah. My goodness. Wow. I got chills from that memory, if I'm being honest, because I just took my daughter to go see a Blue Jackets game this past season. And I had gotten a jersey gifted to me, and she wanted one. She said, "Daddy, can I have a jersey?" And I was like, her mom was like, "Don't you waste no money on the jersey. She's not gonna wear it." And I'm like, "All right, I'm not gonna waste it." And I snuck away for a bit, and I said, "Can I get that jersey right there?" And I came back and brought her jersey. Her eyes lit up like a Christmas tree. And I have this video on my social media after the game we won. On her and my, they're playing jump around, and she's on my shoulders, jumping up and down. Her hair is waving. She's just losing her mind, and it's like, it's just, I honestly, just hearing you tell that story, it instantly took me back to my story. And so, Mr. Barry, thank you so much for giving
Tell you
me
what, 10
any
years from
little
now,
bit of your
you're going to
time.
tell that. Sorry, but 10 years
No,
from now,
you're
you're
okay.
going to tell that story, and you're going to choke up telling that story 10 years from now.
I already am. Listening to yours made me almost cry. I'm like, shoot, I don't know how I'm going to do this. So, well, I look forward to bringing her to see the Zydeco play. And thank you so much for giving me a little piece of your time and a little piece of your day. It is a privilege of mine to be able to sit with you. And thank you so much once again for bringing hockey back to our city. It needs it. And I don't know any of the conversations you're having from a political standpoint behind the scenes to keep hockey in our state. But I know this: if people don't like feelings, they like stats. And this last year, the Zydeco crossed at 100 and was one of only two teams to cross the 110,000 fan threshold. And also, you started out with a goal that you only wanted to, not only you wanted to get about 3,000 fans in the stands per home game. You eclipsed that by 600 plus. And so, if people are into that type of thing known as success, and they would rally behind what Mr. Barry and his amazing team is building here with the Baton Rouge Zydeco. So thank you again. I appreciate you for your time, and I can't wait to see the Zydeco go one more time.
All right, Dylan, thank you. Enjoyed being with
Thank you,
you.
sir.
If you're anything like me, you heard that conversation and you were taking notes, because this is not just a man who is a business savvy individual. This is a man who is a dreamer, but put his dreams into something that he's passionate about, and he's affecting generations upon generations upon generations. Hey, Baton Rouge government or whoever. This individual desires to bring something to our city that will keep our kids out of trouble with a youth program. This can not only edify the community from a time and a babysitter standpoint, but it also will give our youth opportunity to see that there is another way out of their circumstances outside of just a sports or outside of choosing an ulterior motive or things of that nature. This gives them that opportunity. So whoever is watching this or whoever is connected to somebody that's in charge of making the decisions, do the right thing. Stand alongside Mr. Soskin, and let's do anything we can to bring a youth hockey program to the city of Baton Rouge, because this area needs it. I don't know if you know like I know, but the news don't lie to us. Everything we're seeing is a reality. Let's get some youth hockey going on in our city. I can't wait to see it. Next up, I got to sit down with none other than Everett Thompson, who took over the team in a very tumultuous situation. They were 7-27 before he took them over, and they ended the season 9-13. Sit back, relax, and enjoy this great conversation I got to have with Coach Everett Thompson. Baton Rouge Zydeco. Coach Thompson, how are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing great today. Just enjoying the weather up here in Michigan. How are you?
I'm doing great. Michigan is a great state, by the way. Love that place. So let's jump right in. I mean, you came into a situation that was, for lack of better verbiage, it wasn't looking bright. I mean, the team was, I think it was 7-27 or something of that sorts. And then you come in and you lead us along the way to overing that winning amount with the rest of the season going 9-13. Ending the season with a 3-game winning streak. Talk to us a little bit about what went into that turnaround, and how did you right the ship and get us going in the right direction to conclude the season?
So obviously, like you said, it was a turbulent start that they had before I came in, and it is what it is. We kind of came in with the new president, Don Lewis, there, and we had some ideas that we talked about before I came, and we kind of had very similar minds about how we should go about things. And he told me some of the issues that had occurred. And, so it just came down to, we needed a little bit of a spark. We got some new players in that really helped spark the locker room, energize the vibe in there, make it more of a cohesive, fun group to be around. That's a start. And then from there, honestly, we just added a few things to our structure that I thought went really well. Some guys individually really stepped up for us, which was awesome too to see. Once I think a few structure things added, I think it really helped benefit their game. So I mean, a couple things had to go right. Obviously, some luck involved as well. But like I said, we just had a couple. Me and Don really saw things similarly, and I think our plan that we kind of went as we planned. Like I said, so it went well.
That. So just to kind of dive deeper into those additions and subtractions, is there something that went on, if you can privy us to the X's and O's of the side of hockey? Is there something that you shifted from a defense standpoint? Particularly, there were matches or games where there would be 11, I think I saw 11-1 and things like that. What did you shift to kind of shore us up on the defensive end?
Yeah, I mean, we got lucky. Right as I came in, we had some additions come in, like Katola. He came in and really helped us out. We added some big defensemen back there, and we just had more of a defensive mindset to play gritty in front of our net, and then offensively play gritty in front of the other team's net. Scoring isn't exactly something that you dictate in hockey all the time. Like you said, a lot of the scores, can get out of hand, but for the most part, if you're playing good games, you're only seeing maybe 4 or 5 goals. So in order to to be on the good side of that, you try to protect your house and try to get inside of theirs as much as possible. So that was really the onus, just really protecting our side of the net and our net first. And, like we talked about, a couple things got lucky there. We had some good, our defensemen really stepped up there, and we had some forwards also really buy into the system and help out in the back end. So it all was a buy-in process that we really saw out that really went well.
And so, in saying that, you said something in your conversation, or not your conversation, in your answer that stuck out to me. You said a good hockey game is a low-scoring hockey game. And so, I personally love that mentality because it's old school. I mean, and the new iteration of hockey is score quick, score fast, score as much as you can, because we got to keep the eyes on the game. Fans want to see scoring. They don't want to see tough defense and things of that nature. And so, with your outlook, when you have a player like MJ Graham, who is just, 48 points on the season. At one point he was head coach and captain and so many other things. Talk about his importance to the team and steadying that ship while at the same time being a defensively focused hockey team.
Like I said earlier, it's all about the buy-in, honestly. And a guy like MJ, he does know what it takes to win. And he was in the unfortunate position of when they were losing. It's not something that he's really necessarily comfortable with, and he's never really been in his career before. So, it really took a big step for him to take, that and I wouldn't say step aside. He definitely helped me throughout the journey that we went through as well. So, there's definitely a maturity that had to come with his position that and like I said, he bought into everything we did, and he was a big prime leader of why some of the success that we had happened. So, it's kudos to him. Hats off to him for how he handled whatever happened. That's a big, like we talked about, maturity, like that's huge for him. And as a leader, it shows that, he's here for the right reasons. He's here to play for our team. He's a team first guy at the end of the day, and he wants this team to be successful. And he knows that sometimes you have to sacrifice offense, and that's okay. And, historically speaking in hockey, the best teams have always had their stars have to sacrifice somewhere. And that's, whether it's paycheck or, play itself. These are things that guys sacrifice to win championships every year in every place and every level. So, MJ, like I said, hats off to him. He's one of those guys that definitely did that for us. And I think going forward, he's a big leader for us. And, he'll have a defining role going forward, which is huge. And having that now that we know he's bought in is always, it's always nice. Like I said, he's got a big role for us going forward. And, proven that he can buy it. And I think it's even going to be different now that he doesn't have to have the stresses of, having back and forth of these positions, all these different things he had to have going on before I got there. Now he gets to strictly have its off season here of just training to play. And, he's going to be a force to be reckoned with. I think a lot of people are going to be surprised with, you never really know how age can sometimes become a factor. That's just the reality, right? It's Father Time has won all battles, unfortunately. But, he's one of those guys that's really dedicated to the gym. And as he's gotten older, he understands that that's something that is, required. Like if you're not in the gym, if you're not taking your nutrition properly, and I know he is down there right now. We have a really good gym down there. He's working with our trainers. So I think he's going to be, like I said, a force to be reckoned with come this fall.
I'm going to be honest, Coach. You just made me one of the happiest men in the world, because at this level, every player is so fluid. I mean, we're going to talk about Noah Robinson, who's now in Hudson Valley, who was our second scorer with 40 points. He's now in Hudson, and we made a trade. We'll talk about that in a second, but that's not an anomaly of sorts. Like, at this level, everyone is so fluid, and so to know that for sure MJ is going to be back next year, you just made a lot of Zydeco fans super excited about that. So thank you for letting us know that. And with that, I think it's kind of a good transition of the conversation to kind of talk more about what that role entails, being a head coach at the FPHL level. And it's bigger than just X and O's. You're involved in a lot of different things. Would you inform us and get us into the back door of what all your day-to-day, week-to-week, month-to-month looks like as the head coach of the Baton Rouge Zydeco?
Yeah, so obviously October to May is different than what it is May to October. Right now we're in recruiting mode. So as of right now, it's similar to like what you imagine like a football coach is doing, minus the sitting down in families' living rooms. I'm just making a lot of phone calls, talking to agents, talking to individual players, getting in contact with them, seeing what their plans are. And then, it does come down to then the rest of it's recruiting. You're up against 13 other teams in our league now, and 9 other teams in the SP, in the East Coast League, and Europe. So, it's a lot of competition for these guys. And if you want to be competitive, you've got to get the best of the best. So it's about, showing what you can provide them. And, also Baton Rouge is thankfully a very beautiful place. It's warm and sunny, and a lot of these guys from, especially up north, that are good hockey players want to come down and play in front of these fans that are obviously also showing out for these guys. So, all of that definitely helps.
And so that's another main thing. And forgive me, Coach, but I'm a very authentic guy, transparent guy. Hearing that my hometown, my home state broke the record for attendance, it's just, it means a lot when you have this is a expansion team who was losing a lot until you showed up. And then to hear that, and to hear you say from your mouth that is a drawing thing towards fans. You don't really hear of Louisiana per se outside of football being a free agent destination. And so to hear from you that it is a hockey destination of all sports, it's just, that is awesome to hear. That is so awesome. So when you are having conversation with these free agents, when you're having conversation with these prospects and things of that nature, would you say that conversation leans heavier from the FPHL, leans heavier towards security and playing time, or does it lean heavier towards security and I want to be in that environment? There's something about that environment that is different, and I want to be there. I want to be in the Raising Cane's Center. There's just something there. What would you say, if you had to pick one, weighs more?
So I think every individual player's cases do differ, but I think, like you said, the second one I think is more of at the end of the day, you really want the players that are there for that. Not to say just there for that, but you want the guys that are there for the right reasons. And ultimately, playing time and such things like that aren't guaranteed. Every game and every player, they have their ups and downs throughout a season. That's, just the reality of it. The one thing that we can consistently say, though, is that the fans come to our games, they support us. And, so if that doesn't go away, that's something that's, in a lot of places, I'll tell you that even I've played, fan loyalty is something that usually only comes when you're winning. So we've got this loyalty here. And like you said, unfortunately, we had the start we had, but towards the end, we were starting to gear up a little bit. Like we saw some progress there. So I think it's all about continuing that and seeing if we can get some momentum in that way. And I think we haven't even seen the tip of the iceberg of attendance yet. I think that was a very, I think we can sell out the Raising Cane Center a few times this year, and I expect to see that in the fall. We have the best fan support in the league, obviously. Through the attendance, they show that, but it's beyond that as well. Like you talk to our booster club, talk to our players here, like they get treated very well in this town. And it's I shouldn't say town, in the city, because this is one of the biggest markets in the league as well, which is a big draw for some of these guys. Some of these guys are not from big places, and even if they are, when you're from these big places, you're just another person in the town. When you come here, you're playing hockey. You're one of 23 guys that play hockey in this town. So
Right.
it's a special thing. There's not many places like it in that regard. So.
Right. And to talk more about the transaction piece that goes on, you made a major deal. A lot of fans weren't too excited to see one of the individuals go in this deal. I mean, I don't know if you dive into a lot of blogs and social medias, but fan favorite Noah Robinson was sent to the Hudson Valley Venom and a couple other players as well for Eli Wilson and Roman Gaudet, sorry. Talk to us a bit about what went into that transaction and what do you think Roman and Eli are going to bring to the Zydeco?
Yeah, so Robo brought a lot to us last year, and he was a big piece to the team. And it was unfortunate to have to let him go. It's never an easy decision to let a player like him go. We wish him the best of luck going on in his career up there as well. But bringing in Eli Wilson and Roman is huge for our team going forward. I was able to play with both of them at some point in my career and watch them play, and I'm able to watch them develop as players. Eli obviously has a sense of getting to the net and scoring goals that I don't think he's even really, like I said, some of these guys have played in places that I think they've gotten to show off their skill, but I don't think they've really hit their pinnacles yet. I think we're going to see some stats this year from both players that'll be a little different than what they've had in the past. They're both having good summers of training, which is huge. And, I think that's going to come and really help us down when it comes to the fall. Both are taking their summers really seriously right now, I know. And they're both really excited to come down to Baton Rouge and play for the Zydeco. I'm aware of that as well. So that's always, something that's exciting to hear when players really do want to come down and play for the city and the team. That's huge. So
that is awesome. I mean, I was a little shocked because I didn't expect to hear Robo in any trades. I thought he was going to be here, but I trust you, Coach. I believe that Eli and Roman are going to bring something great to the team. And when we get to the draft, you guys lean very heavy on the defenseman side, which rightfully so, bringing in Brody Thornton and Nathan Balkwill. When you are looking into the draft, obviously the FPHL draft is a little bit different. When you're looking into the draft, what made you guys lean so heavy defense? What was the focus on that? Would you say the trade kind of alleviated your focus on scoring goals, or what went into that?
Yeah, so I don't think you dictate goal scoring in hockey, unfortunately. It's one of those things that does come, and you want to score as many goals as possible. That's one thing, we're going to do. But at the same time, I think preventing them throughout the year becomes a harder process. Defensemen are hard to come by, especially true defensemen that have played at high levels before they come to our league. And usually when they transfer over, it's usually a pretty good thing. So we're trying to find natural defensemen that have played the position. And then like guys like Brody Thornton, he puts up some points historically at his college. He won a national championship there. He's a winner in every level he's played at. So we expect him to come in here and have that same culture of winning and help us develop that here.
I think you're right on the way, honestly, Coach. I think once they brought you in, that showed us as fans that they're serious about winning. And I've seen it in every turn of the coin, just watching you navigate all the different spheres and hearing you talk even off camera about all the things you have to do. It just shows me that you're committed to winning at a high level. And with that being said, if you could say one thing right now to the fans to get them fired up about the 2024-2025 season, one thing, whatever it is, if it's a player that you're like, you guys are going to want to have your butts in the stands to see this guy play, or if there's one thing outside of us being naturally loyalists and we're going to be there regardless, what would that one thing be?
Well, I think the one thing they can just count on is this team's going to be very hardworking. They're going to be there every game they're going to come to. They're going to see a team that is committed to the city. They're going to see these guys in the town this year. They're going to be doing some community service work. These aren't just going to be guys that you see once a weekend and that's it. These are going to be people they get to meet, and they should be excited because they're not only going to be able to, like I said, meet these guys and they're going to be committed to this city, but they're also going to be really good hockey players. We're going to be a really fast, physical, fun team to watch. I promise that. We will not be a team people will come to Baton Rouge and they're excited to play against. I'll tell you that right now.
Come on.
We're going to be very structured, but I promise you we'll be very fast and physical. And like I talked about, getting to our net is something that we're trying to make something that's hard for teams to get to. And that's, like I talked about, getting those defensemen in here is going to help a lot. So we're not done with the recruiting yet here. We got guys from coming in all over the world. We have a Japanese player, Rito Nakamaki, who's coming in. There's some guys, like I talked about, we got guys all over the world coming in. It's going to be a very competitive training camp, which is exciting for us. Last year, like we talked about, start wasn't there. This year, we plan on having a totally different view on how we start. It's very important to us to start well, and we think the fans deserve us to have a fast start, and we want to, come right out of the gate storming. So they should expect that from us.
All right, Coach. So we're gonna play a first off. You got me fired up. By the way, I don't know if you could tell. I was about to jump out of my chair. I had to remember that I was interviewing you, Coach, and I wasn't just a fan watching a press conference. So, holy smokes, fast, physical, and what was the last one? Tell them the last one more time.
Well, we're fast, physical, and disciplined out there. I promise you that. We're going to be in your face, whistle to whistle, tough to play against, and it's going to be fun to watch. Teams are going to be very frustrated when they come into the Raising Cane Center, not only because the fans are going to be loud and on top of them, but how we play is definitely going to be an impact too. But like I said, the fans are definitely also an impact on that. It's when we are playing well and they're yelling and loud, it's a difficult environment to be in. I promise you that, especially from an away team.
I love it. Fast, physical, and discipline. You can't beat that. And Coach said earlier, he said fun. I was trying to get him to say fun again because I know people love the word fun, but he went the coach's route and said discipline. So I love that, Coach. Okay, so we're going to have a little fun here as I thank you for sticking around with me. And what the people don't know is we fought everything from time to calendars to the internet to make this happen. And so thank you for sticking around and being patient with me as we figured this out. So to conclude our time together, I want to play a fun game of get to know Coach. And we're going to have some fun, and we're going to let the fans know who you are with the fun game of either or. Are you ready?
Let's do it.
All right. Greatest hockey player of all time.
Just name one off right now.
Yep, give me one right now. I'm not going to say either or on that one. Wayne Gretzky. Oh, so I sat down with Mr. Soskin a while ago, and he gave me a totally different name than that. I'm interested to know why you went with Wayne Gretzky. He said, and obviously you'll see the interview maybe, but he was like, yeah, everyone likes Gretzky. Obviously, there's no one that could score like him, and he could see the floor like him or the ice like him. But I can't remember the older guy's name. It was an older gentleman. I think it was the Eagle. I think it was.
Bobby Hall.
Yes, I think he said.
Yeah, he's a Chicago guy. That makes a lot of sense. Bobby Hall is a famous Chicago Blackhawk player. So I mean, yeah, he was the Golden Jet. He's special. Not the Golden Jet. He's special, but I mean, I think you got to go with Wayne Gretzky, the great one. Like, it's hard. He's one of the top 5 probably greatest athletes of all time when you really boil it down. If you really want to get into like that argument.
Listen, Coach, honestly, I was having a conversation with a few of my buddies that are college basketball players. And I told them, I said, guys, hockey players might be the most athletic athletes in the world. And they looked at me like I was crazy. I'm like, think about it. They have to have immense amount of strength to be able to run up and down an ice. And obviously, there's shifts and things like that, line changes and things like that. But still, to be able to go up and down and you're evading getting hit, you have to stay focused. The athleticism, and it's just second to none, maybe outside of a swimmer. And they were just like, oh, yeah, but they can't jump as high as us. I'm like, all right, guys. So anyway, I'm going to stick with my guns and say I think hockey guys are the most athletic players of all time because
we appreciate that. I mean, it's definitely one of the more difficult sports with everything going on. I'll tell you that. It's a lot going on, and we're one of the only sports with a confined wall that can get you thrown into at any time. So that's the real kicker, in my opinion, that kind of differentiates. You can kind of, basketball and football, at one point, even in football, you can just go outside and not get hit. Hockey, there's no running away from it sometimes, which is, from a fan perspective, it's fun, right? not as fun when you're the one getting chased.
Right. Okay, so I'm gonna shift here because I like your answers more. Instead of giving you an either or, because you're easy, coach, I'm just gonna give you an open-ended question because I just feel like this is gonna be easier than my usual conversations. So, greatest hockey movie of all time?
Slapshot.
That's a no. That I'm gonna delete that question. That I'm waiting for somebody to say Mighty Ducks, but it just is not gonna happen. Like no one ever.
So I think if you talk to like someone from the newer generation, like a guy probably currently playing, you might actually get that answer. Like especially someone born in like the year 2000 to like 2005, which is where some of our players fall into. I was coaching at a college this past year, actually, before I took this job, and we would throw on movies, not necessarily Slapshot, but movies, older movies, things like Dumb and Dumber, just, older comedies, and guys would constantly be like, what are these? Or like, we threw on American Pie once, and they were like, what is this? It's like, these are classic movies you should know. Like, what do you mean you don't know what this is? So
we're old.
I think anyone of the older generation, technically, older generation, it's hard to say that, only being 30, I don't feel old, but yeah, I mean, I was growing up to make that the best hockey movie ever, and there's a lot of history about it that relates to our league, which is actually really cool if you do the digging. So
I mean, I've been told by multiple people that Slapshot is the original. They remade it.
Yeah,
the original
Slapshot is historically speaking, it's actually like way more accurate than like you would want it to be, but it's really it's a glimpse into a world that's what it was back then for sure. Like whenever I think it was like 77 or 78,
mm-hmm.
that's what this was. So it's a
chaos.
It's still chaos.
It's still chaos. I love it. That's going to be the tweetable moment from this conversation. Hockey is still chaos. I love it.
Always chaos. It always will be. I mean, even if you look at the NHL, the things that go on there, people are always complaining about some teams always trying to circumvent the cap, or it's always just something one way or another. And that's the best part about sports, right? It's drama.
Right. That's what makes it sports. It would be boring if there was no drama involved. Okay, so would you rather give the assist or be the one scoring the goal?
I mean, goal scorers get paid at the end of the day. That's the hazard, right? Like, but I mean, historically speaking, I was more of a passer as a player. But goal scoring is definitely that's the best feeling ever, is when you actually put the puck in the back of the net. It's indescribable.
Okay. If I put you in a room and I said you only can choose, and this is going to hit close to home for you, and I'm actually modifying this question just for you, being a Michigan native.
Okay.
If I put you in a room and I said you had to choose between the Penguins or the Red Wings, historically speaking, not just now, historically.
Oh, the Red Wings.
Oh,
I'm sorry not to.
Oh, talk about. I'm gonna be honest. I've had a lot of conversations, Coach, and because of a certain individual that plays on the Penguins, they've said he trumps everyone. What are we talking about? He trumps everyone, and so I want to know why Red Wings historically. Talk to me.
Oh, I mean, they have in the 50s they had the production line with Gordie Howe and Ted Lindsay and all those guys. So that's legendary. They're all Hall of Famers. And then you get into the 90s, they brought the Russian Five. Like that's a whole thing that kind of brought hockey into a whole new realm of different type of play style and everything, which was, you had Sergei Fedorov, Igor Larionov, Fetisov, all those guys. Just a crazy history. Then, all the cups, I believe we're at 11 or 12 now. I mean, it's not as many as we probably should have, historically speaking, since we have been around since, the original 6 era. But I mean, typically I feel like, and this is a lot of people feel this way, I think in sports, is if Detroit sports are good, actually, like the leagues generally are in a good place.
Yeah.
Detroit's a very interesting market. People forget about almost being like sneaky good. But typically, other than the Lions, the sports are usually good in Detroit. So this has been like a weird decade kind of like a lapse of like the Tigers have been the Lions are finally good, which is weird. yeah, everyone's a little taken back by that, but it's fun. Like, I mean, Dan Campbell and the Lions, that'll be a fun team to watch this year, in my opinion. I mean, that's prime time TV when they take the field every game. Is for me at least. And then the Red Wings, they're right on the cusp of making the playoffs again, which is interesting. I mean, 25. I mean, they went to the playoffs for 25 straight years, which is I believe a record for still. I mean, them and the Patriots if you looked at it for like 2 decades almost, were the team to kind of model your franchise after. So I think that's like, depending on how you want to look at it, I think that's kind of where you can really look at it historically and be like the Red Wings are that team compared to the Pittsburgh. I mean, Pittsburgh Penguins have had, Mario Lemieux definitely is something special. And like they had they've only had 3 cups. And then Sidney Crosby's like, they're always on like the brink of being bankrupt and leaving. And then, where Detroit's they've had their historical bad times, like the Dead Wings. The last 7 to 8 years have been pretty bad. But I mean, like I said, we're coming back. Every team has to go through this in a sense, unfortunately. So,
right. I mean, you guys, was it 2001, 2002 season was like historically legendary season for the Red Wings, if I'm not mistaken.
A ton of Hall of Famers, just loaded with Hall of Famers. I mean, Pavel Datsyuk is up for the ballot this year. That was his rookie season. He was on that team. So, I mean, he was a fourth liner with Bobby Hall or Brett Hall, Bobby Hall's
That's
son.
insane.
So, I mean, like that's the fourth line. So, I mean, that featured Steve Yzerman, Brendan Shanahan, Nick
Shanahan. I didn't know Shanahan was on that team.
Dominik Hasek was in that. Like, I mean, that's a historically like I believe it's got to go down as one of the most Hall of Fame recognized teams ever. I mean, even their worst players are like borderline Hall of Famers.
Right.
It's just hard to like historically speaking. I mean, there's a few teams that definitely. The Toronto Maple Leafs, unfortunately, they haven't won, but their history is pretty cool. The Montreal Canadiens are the most historically speaking interesting franchise in hockey.
That
like
76-77 Montreal Canadiens team is, in my opinion, the greatest team of all time. In my opinion,
you can't. I don't think you can really argue it either. I mean, you can make a few but I mean, you put that team up, and they set a lot of records. They won more than they won a ton of cups too. Like they basically owned the decade, which is, historically speaking, there's not many teams that can do that. There's dynasties and they did that like times 3. So it's like,
especially in the era,
it was different.
Exactly.
Admittedly, it was different. They kind of had a hometown threshold on everyone at the moment. So
that's true. I didn't take that into consideration. It was kind of like if you're from there, you play for them, and that's where all the great players were from.
Historically, a lot of it was out of there, not far from there. So I mean, hockey's in a really good place right now. We got 32 teams right now. They're looking at expansion even more, from what I've heard in America. So I mean, 7 teams in Canada. There's a lot of jobs out there right now. We're obviously expanding, which is huge. Like, we're getting record crowds still, which is huge for our league, and it's just huge for hockey in general. I mean, you go to a lot of these minor league towns. Unfortunately, like Baton Rouge doesn't even have a local youth program, but I know it's something that is on the burner, and it's something that people want because, it's something that people should have an opportunity to play. Hockey's a fun sport. It's not only fun to go watch a game, obviously, but it's a great sport to go. The team building and the team bonding that I've created throughout this sport has been, you can't even put money or words to it, right? So,
right. And Coach Mr. Soskin was talking about that a little bit with the youth hockey league, and I think I'm praying that you guys are able to bring that to the city, because speaking from a personal standpoint, I remember. I think I was in the 3rd or 4th grade going to see the Kingfish play when we had the Kingfish. And I remember it was a early day game. And I went with my class, and it was crazy. I'm like, I didn't know they played hockey at like 3 in the, and so, I remember going, and that always stuck with me. But it was short lived because they were gone. And so just to see you guys there winning, drawing fans, I'm hoping that the powers that be see you guys impact and believe that we need to invest more, because there's a there's a want from the people to have something like this. So I'm hopeful for it. I'm hopeful for it.
If
Well,
we can
Coach,
I'll continue. If we can get year 2 success like we had to finish year 1, I think things like that will be a little bit easier to push on the people, like you said, that have the power to do these types of things. And I think with more support, the support we have is great, but even with more support from the fans, I think like the community outcry that we've had and outreach has been tremendous. And I think going into the fall this year, I know, there's going to be some dates that'll be close to some LSU football games. I believe we don't really play many of those Saturdays. So there's no reason not to come out on a Thursday and Friday to the rink, especially in the heat right now. Come down, get a cold drink. And, I think, we're a fun place where you can really come be yourself. That's one of the things we really strive to be, come be loud, be proud of where you're from, be proud of your city. And, we're going to give you a reason to be proud now. So
let's go, Coach. I'm so excited. My only gripe, I've said the same thing to Mr. Beard. My only gripe is that, you see, I'm a Blue Jackets fan. Don't worry about it. We're a work in progress. We had a great draft. Don't worry about it. But at heart, I'm a Zydeco fan, but it's just newer. I only have Blue Jacket jerseys, and it's because I love our model, which is auction off the jerseys. I love it. I just wish in some beautiful world I could just go online and just buy a jersey. That's just all. I mean, that's all I want to do in this world. I've even gone as far as saying I'll create my own jersey. So, but
I'm sure
anyway,
there's something in the works for this coming year. We'll probably have something in the works. Like I said, last year we got off to the start we did. I think there'll be a lot more merchandise opportunities and things like that you'll see. This year will be a lot different than last. I can promise you that. Like you said, last year was a little glimpse towards the end of what we're going to do. Expect bigger and better things throughout the process of what we're bringing. So we appreciate everything as well. So thank you again, though, as well, for having me on.
Of course. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much. Appreciate you. Thank you for stopping in, Coach. Talk to you later.
You as well.
Hopefully you enjoyed that conversation with Coach Everett. He is the mind behind all things Zydeco that are happening between transactions. Him and Mr. Don Lewis, they work together and make all these things happen, but he kind of is the one that was pushing the needles. I want you to know, even during that episode, he was trying to get more talent to Baton Rouge. Literally, in the middle of that episode, he was making conversations. I got to have a great conversation with him after we stopped recording. You will be seeing Coach Everett around a whole lot more. He's a man that loves our city. He's a man that loves our community, and he's a man that is passionate about making sure our community knows that hockey can win here in Baton Rouge. So thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of The Assist. If you enjoyed it like I enjoyed it, give me some love in the chat and in the comment. Don't forget to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. I'm going to be hitting you again in the face next Tuesday, unless the NBA goes crazy again. Who knows? I might do a 2-for-5 special. Hit you with 2 episodes in 5 days. If you don't know, now you know. We outside. It's The Assist.